we're on board.
Yeah.
Just welcome back, everybody. It's it's 3:27 PM, and we're just picking back up to continue this meeting. We're still in D1, the update from partnerships and operations. We've discussed at length the Marlborough Square lighting project. There are other topics in here. Have councillors got other or further questions on some of these other topics for Stefan or Tim, who's online as well? Councillor Woodcock, have you got further questions?
Just for the three here to make sure that I think I'm pretty much covered. Well, with.
Councillor Bodley, any other questions on any further topics? Councillor Gray, Councillor Maynard, any other things to ask our staff about the operations or partnerships report? That's no. Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just wanted to kind of revisit something from the previous report, and that's really about Cape Elizabeth. Whilst I don't have any up-to-date news for you, the board is meeting on the 28th, which is only a week away now. They invited those councils with some of the roses to us to place submissions. So far, only two such councils have actually made submissions to the board to ask for an extension of that funding, the wholly funded road. As soon as I hear, you'll hear. I wish I had more to tell you, but
thanks. Yeah. Just for your information, also the officers, the email which has been formulated and Paul has sent off to the board. I've shared that with all councillors, so all councillors are aware of that submission that we have made, supporting that earlier letter that you had sent in July, also supporting the correspondence from Maui Ratepayer Association and the correspondence that MP Kieran McAnulty had sent through to the Waikato Training Board as well.
I also understand as well that the mayor's been speaking with local union to make submissions as well. So we're hitting them from every angle, as it were.
Councillor Bosley,
I was about to ask what the mayor was doing with the space, but
Yes.
great. Councillor Woodcock.
Just a question on the Hanakura. We've got Hanakura Road, yes, and there's all the relevant roading. So is there a definite time frame for the next stage there, Stefan?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Councillor. So essentially, where we're at Hanakura is that I had asked our consultancy, WSP, for a estimate on how much it costs to do the risk assessment and geotech assessment for the road that we're intending to punch through the slip zone. And WSP gave me something quite comprehensive and quite expensive, and and that's fine. That's as it should be. They're a company that prides themselves on a quality product and a comprehensive product, so that's fine. I though felt obliged to look at other options because I'm trying to save money and I'm trying to get things done faster. And so I have been talking to Waikato and to their senior geotech engineer, who is a very, very helpful man. And we're exploring together, Waikato and the council are exploring together the idea of building the road and assessing the risk as we go. Because that is over the past 18 months with all this emergency works that Waikato has been doing, that's been a model that they've used.
So they'll be going down that path
They have,
already.
and they've quite successfully put roads back together and done the risk at the same time and mitigated at the same time. And it's a contractor working really closely with a geotech engineer at the same time on site.
As you go, sort of thing.
Yeah. And so,
It's one of those things that feels like common sense, but it's a lot of time to get to common sense.
thank you, yeah. So that's where I'm at the moment. I am learning as I'm going. I don't have a project manager on board for this either. So I am, you know, as a group manager, I'm doing my best to work my way through the process, navigate the process, keep it as cost efficient as I can and get it as fast as I can, but it's taking a long time. I understand that, and I'm frustrated too, but hopefully if I can get the advice I need from Waikato Kotahi, we could potentially tender in that manner. So we would tender for a build plus a geotech engineer working as a consultant, and we could get started on parallel. Yeah, and I'm trying to, at the moment, I'm just trying to get tender documents and other information on a very similar build that happened up in Nelson, so that I can save time and money by being able to look at So look, I am onto this, but it's only one of sort of 14 or 15 infrastructure issues that I have at the moment. So I'm trying to push my time into Hinakura where I can.
I appreciate you giving that side of the box.
I would also prepare this committee, if I may, Mr. Chair, that I've asked Stefan to really consider, as we approach that kind of stage where we're going to tender, to build in project management time, whether that's even an option for us. I will be straight with you. We cannot carry on. It's false economy to completely think that our staff can project manage 15 projects at the same time whilst leading the group. So I'd just like to lay that on the table, straight talking, as I usually do. This is not something that we can cut corners with. And I really, for one, appreciate Stefan thinking outside the box and how we can save money. But the reality is, we will get to a point where these types of work needs to be resourced for the longer term. And we could be saving a considerable amount across all of our project work if we just brought that in.
I don't think he was disagreeing with that. Oh, sorry, through the issue. I think he really disagreed. He was disagreeing with that. Better season appraisal. Just simply wasn't money.
Yes,
it was as simple as that. And I think he disagreed with the fact that we could all see the sense and the logic in having one that was just like.
I absolutely respect that. We're just having to now fund it through different means, and it happens just in a different way.
Yeah, you know, hopefully it'll change. Change and so it's not.
You've got to keep coming to that summer and banging your head against that brick wall. The next financial year, we might get you on.
Well, you know, so it might be a challenge, you've not been a hole there. Right, back on track, team. Thanks, Stefan. Just in that section in the career roading on page 81. There's a paragraph there that state ultimately whatever we do, the risk of failure from ongoing movement will risk with council, and certainly in our discussions with the residents out in the Kura when we had the meeting in the hall, and then the survey which was sent out to them after the fact, they were keen to push straight through slip, and I believe that they understood that there was a risk. I think when the decision was made here around our council, this committee table, and also the whole council table, I think, you know, we have understood that risk, we accept that risk, and I certainly appreciate, you know, you looking in partnership with Waka Kotahi to do that risk assessment geotech work at the same time that a build takes place, because I know there's a heap of a lot of frustrated residents out in the Hinakura district that as the year moves on, they're already asking questions because they know there's going to be another summer of impact for their farming operations and businesses. So as soon as you hear Stefan from Wakakitahi, that'd be some great news to be able to pass on to those residents something positive.
I do think that opens up a question or a discussion that we are going to have at some stage and say, whilst the risk sits with council, should it slip again, what is the long-term plan? But this is a Hail Mary call. And if it slips again, I would very much doubt there'll be the appetite of the ratepayers to just keep rebuilding this road. And that is a conversation we're going to have at some stage.
Chances of sort of in the same place are pretty slim, actually, the way it's going to cousins and somewhere else. But that's a problem too, if you build a new road up around the top, that's why we slip it along. It's a new spot, so there's a risk. Anybody look at it, think on that road out your road, there's a bit of a risk.
Oh, absolutely, but we're building it at the lowest cost opportunity that we can, and the risk of failure is possibly higher. But eventually we're going to have to come up as big as said and say, you know, is it sustainable to just keep building a road on a piece of ground that is moving and moving and moving?
You'd argue that about most of the, sorry,
No.
you'd argue that about most of the regions, what the crowd is going to
Certainly the three finger.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope nobody ever sees me as being a handbrake. I'm more of a realist. When it comes to risks of slipping, that's one thing. When it comes to risks of health and safety to the public, that's another. And the liability there sits with me alone. And it's a personal liability. So we have to make sure that we're doing everything possible to manage that health and safety risk. And whilst I absolutely respect and understand the frustration from the community, there are other users of that road or other roads around it other than the community, and tourists that may be travelling through who may not know about the short-term mitigation actions that's taken place. You know, may quite innocently, you know, be travelling through and not understand them. So it's a very difficult decision for councillors to do, so I appreciate it.
Sure. The final point that I've got to question of what I'd like to ask is about Martinborough wastewater treatment compliance, and certainly we've talked about DW has removed the notices of compliance, and there are 3 to do projects, or 3 to do notices. And then here in paragraph 5.1.1, talk about investigate, optimise and undertake the sludging activities over the next 12 to 18 months, but we'll take it out to September 2024, and I suppose ultimately at the far end will be February, March 2025. Is there any other time frame at the moment, or when will we get a definitive time frame on the process? Because certainly, you know, to remediate those notices and get back to full compliance, so we can start connecting new properties back up to our wastewater treatment plant, because within this community and no doubt the wider South Wairarapa community, there are impacts on the businesses, and businesses are hurting now, and that's as a result of you know, building development within the town not occurring. So if that's the first part, is there a definitive time frame, and when we will know what that time frame is? Because the second part of, I suppose, my question is, when we get to a stage where we're back compliance again, we could well end up facing a mad rush of people wanting to build on vacant sections that are in town now. That original development that was being worked on and the question came from the developers as to is the treatment plant capable. You know, they may want to immediately start kicking off subdivision and then selling and building those properties. So there'll be council work consenting subdivision and that sort of thing for Russell's team. There'll be work from our building team to approve consents. Just want to ensure that in the lead up to the compliance, the full compliance, us coming back to full compliance, we need to ensure that all those steps are ready to go for when that occurs.
I think you've forgotten the other part of the equation is getting into compliance doesn't increase capacity. So there were two stages, remember. The first one was compliance, which means existing people can still flush their toilet. It mean we could add more connections. Second part is increasing capacity, which is not the 12 to 18 months, it's the 18 months to 3 years.
And the other factor is there's currently no eligible land within Martinborough that could be connected anyway. So there is nothing that's available for subdivision that would mean that in order for it to be developed onto, then you can try and connect. So
it'll have to be
there aren't any.
septic tanks and.
I'll give you one example. There's even rules around septic tanks and the distance from the septic tank to the property. So those are, you know, that's more lifestyle. Yeah, but as far as urban connections go, there isn't currently no land that could even be because they're all not in keeping with the district laws as they currently stand.
So you have to basically expand town. Nothing within the boundaries, the boundary will definitely.
That's our position at the moment. That's what removes the risk of that noise from developers because there isn't currently there isn't that pressure. So,
Chair, we do have a detailed project milestones table that's been put together, including how the funds are going to be spent. We need this because we're going to be finalising the application to the DIA to get $500,000 of funds, which they verbally approved for us. So each of the milestones leading on to where we're going to be able to reach compliance. Also the growth study, because we're going to be doing a similar growth study that we just saw the results of for Featherston that will be incorporated into the capacity increase planning in the future. So all that is part of this milestone, what we put together. But importantly, we've also built in a governance, communications and engagement piece of the plan so that we put a similar kind of a governance structure around it as we have with Featherston, where we can clearly communicate to the community where we are in our project, deliver project plans and updates, and have somebody connected to the community on the governance as well. So that's all part of it.
Thanks. So I was just certainly looking at the information which has been on the agenda today and the timeline and that you have included in the joint report between Wellington Water and Council, saying that our treatment plant was commissioned in 75 with a population goal of 1,500, and now I flicked online and saw that our population of Martinborough 2022 is 2,000, and it's no wonder that we're in the boat we're in, but certainly keen to be able to see some progress and some timelines, you know, and provide that surety to our community. Thanks. Thank you. Has anyone got any further question for Steve and Robin?
Well, got one, great. All right, it's for Robin. Goes back what page we want. So in the wastewater report between Wellington Water and South Warrior Council, observation 4 says lead advisor information management. Who is this? Is this Wellington Water?
Why ask that question earlier?
Well, yeah. So, says if so, this is, in my opinion, is the wrong way of doing things. This sort of information should be collated by the council staff and stored in-house to keep our local knowledge local and can then be shared by whatever, with whatever contractors or entities we have to work with in the future. Wellington Water might not always be the one to do it.
It is, staff member, and she is solely charged with, she sits in my team. And she's solely charged with managing and curating and having control over all of our information assets.
So everything to do with pipes and water and whatnot.
Absolutely everything, but that's not to say that the quality of our information is on. So it's close to it, in fact.
Fully understand.
Yes, but she is tasked with that. So,
Yeah, I know there are certain people that, when I was stringy died from the borough, they put a big hole in them. Load of information, but I know since they have quite a great S1, but still need to, but you need a little bit of a help out with what's here and what's where, is it being talked to.
So information obviously is that asset information, the infrastructure information, but it's also information in terms of our financial information. The plans from 100 years ago, you know, it really does cover the whole spectrum of information.
So this is good to know, thank you very much.
One final last thing for me, interim speed management, so that's going to come to council next week.
Yes.
Would it be possible for us to send an invite and ask the police if they'll be able to, if the road police manager could attend the meeting and perhaps have the information of that report shared to them prior, so that because of what would be good to be able to understand what we're proposing to do and how police could or would be in a position to help enforce changes to our speed limits around our district.
Again, that raises the question of sharing council decision papers with an external party before they've been seen by council. I'm certainly open to inviting the question, but I just wonder whether I'm able to share the papers in advance.
So our agenda would be going out on for that on the Friday, would it not?
We can share it on the day that it's sent to out into the public domain.
Yeah, okay. Do you have a person in mind?
I'll do some digging to find out who the district road policing manager is in Wellington District. Thanks.
If I may on that subject as well, we're anticipating that to be quite an interesting discussion at council. Mainly because whilst I wasn't at the hearings, I understand that there was some debate over the science versus the local logic and application of local understanding. We ultimately, from a safety perspective, you know, we want to, it's got to be a happy place, like have a middle ground, but naturally we're going to lean towards safety, and we're hoping that councillors will contribute towards, you know, that general understanding, because I understand during the hearings there were some different opinions coming to the table, and they were based more on personal feeling and sentiments about what they thought was appropriate rather than what was founded on science. So yeah, we're looking forward to that meeting.
So are you suggesting you've changed the recommendations from the hearings committee?
What so?
Okay.
We're suggesting that they.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, sorry, forgive me.
Yes.
I apologise. Then there will need to be a conversation as to what councillors
Have an appetite for.
pardon?
Have an appetite
Have
for.
an appetite for. It's councillors' decision, of course, all the way.
So it raises an interesting question though, that we've been through a public hearings consultation process and a deliberate deliberation of those. And the hearings committee, which has the statutory right to make those recommendations to council, where does the right of officers come in to say, oh, sorry, we disagree and we're going to read this?
I would have to,
That places you in a very difficult position.
What I'd say, I'm just wondering as to whether we should, that conversation should perhaps happen next week in our council meeting once we actually see that information which has been which is tabled.
Well, that's the speed review is commented on in here.
Yes.
And the recommendations from the hearings committee are public and have been made public. And so my question is where is the authority to change those? And is that not a position that is perhaps usurping what you rightly said was councillors' responsibility to make these decisions? We don't get to second guess those decisions.
I think
I would have thought
we can cover that
Hearings
off.
committee makes the recommendations.
the council.
Yeah, and so there's still an opportunity for us to provide more advice to council on the final decision.
it is advice, but whether you choose to accept that, of course, it's entirely your responsibility. You're right.
I suppose the problem I've got with that is that the advice was given to the hearings panel. That's where your input was. You did all that work. And then what I'm hearing is you don't like the result that came out, so we're going to revisit that again.
It may be that councillors in the hearings committee made a decision that, for instance, wasn't based on the product of the consultation. And that might, if that's happened, then that might need some more work and some more thought. But I think it's probably not the right place to go through it right now.
Right, I think we can cover that off next week. Councillor Maynard, you got your hand up. Sorry about the delay.
No, that's okay, because you probably noticed my hand went up pretty quickly, and then else this went out. Because
I think Councillor Gray noticed your hand up well before me.
yes, no, but it's only because you know, when the hearings committee is being run, we have a whole lot of advice that is given to us by council officers as well that we look at prior to the recommendations. I'm just wondering if and that wasn't a short process that day either. So and then we make the recommendations through to council. If it's believed that perhaps then there's additional information or something that you feel wasn't presented at the time, or is it information that was there prior? Because I think otherwise all we're doing is recreating the wheel. And in effect, so what the hearings committee is putting forward, which is then and which has gone through the public consultation. You know, we had people there coming to us. Are we not meant to have a hearings committee? Because we spend time on these and we have information that's presented to us by council officers for those, and so I'm just a little bit concerned.
I'm certainly aware that we've got a process. A process has been followed, with the policy being publicised, submissions being called for, a hearings committee hearing those submissions, information being collated and coming back to staff. I think, you know, the next stage of that information, that report will be coming to council. I think, I don't want to prejudge, you know, what that information is. None of us have seen it, but I think it's going to be valuable next week that when we do see it, you know, we'll have a good opportunity then to ask those questions of staff and take into consideration the submissions that not only the hearing panel heard at the time, but the whole council table will be able to see and consider the full package of the information, and then we can make our decisions, I believe.
I just, you know, to me it feels like, well, then we should just be doing that. Just take it to the council. You know, where everyone's able to see it all at the same time. It's if we're.
I think it's probably.
It was a pretty heavy day.
Yeah,
So-
obviously, but I suppose, you know, the hard work was no doubt done by the hearings committee, hearing all those submissions. It's just like the hard work gets done at this committee table and any other committee table, I imagine, before those recommendations and substantial decisions go up to a full council table.
What
For
we're
things
hearing,
not to be relitigated at the,
yeah, but what we're hearing is that officers are saying, we don't like your decision in the hearings committee, we're going to put alternative advice on. That's not appropriate.
yeah,
why don't
we're
we just
making
wait
different
until-
recommendations.
why don't we just wait until next week until we get actually see what the paper holds and the discussion that is in the paper from officers. I think that's probably the best place and best time.
And it's,
so-
yeah, it's not, I think, not to get too far into this, it's not that we don't like the decision that was taken by the hearings committee. That's not what's happening. That's that in certain places decisions were made, like, for example, the 40-kilometre speed zone around the entire Martinborough village. A decision like that was made, didn't emerge out of consultation, and it requires further work for us to be able to really understand it and implement it. So it doesn't at the moment form part of the recommendation. So it's not that we didn't like the decision, it's just that a decision was made that we weren't able to really discuss in any detail in that meeting, that isn't easily implementable and that has a whole lot of roading and legal implications attached to it that we are obliged to bring to you in the council. So I mean, please don't think that we're just replacing our view with yours. That's not what's happening at all.
Great.
Okay.
Very quickly say, in that hearings committee, one of the resolutions, resolution 8, that was moved by myself and seconded by yourself, was to recommend to council that council officers further consider consultation feedback, including the content of all submissions on high priority roads, both in terms of inclusions and exclusions, as Jess said, speed levels, already at that time, and report back to council with their final advice, which is what you're doing.
Yeah.
So meeting one of the resolutions of the hearing committee anyway.
Thanks for seconding that.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm just concerned that not so, I don't mind hearing advice, but if you're recommending things completely against what the council or what the hearings committee said, for example, the metal roads for example, or something like that, if there are some practical issues with implementing those things, that's different than actually changing what was decided in that.
We've asked them to report back to council with their final advice.
So I think that's we'll leave that for further, that topic for further discussion next week. That's okay, team. Now I'm just mindful of time and moving on. We've still got a couple of items on the agenda. D2, we've got Seb sitting there. She's been listening to us patiently. We've got an update from her on the implementation of, I'm not going to embarrass myself, of our Wairarapa youth strategy.
Yeah.
Right, but I can tell you for Wairarapa.
Chair, I've got Seth here in support, but I'll just quickly go through this for you. So this is a noting paper. There's no decision, and it's really just letting you know that implementation is underway. We have happily attracted some funding from Te Patu Ora, and that is specifically for us to help implement the strategy. And we're going to be taking on a youth development coordinator for a period of 12 months to help us implement the strategy for the South Wairarapa. So that's really good news. You'll see that there we've spread the load in terms of implementing across the region, and different councils are doing different parts of the implementation. That's a more efficient way of doing it. It means we don't have to fund what other councils are doing. We just fund a project that we're doing ourselves as contribution. And we are doing the Mana Taiohi training initiative, and we'll fund that, and that's our contribution. And I'd note that all of the activity, including the Mana Te Awahi activity, is coming from baseline. So it is funded from our existing baseline, and it's we're not asking for any additional budget to do that.
Thanks. I don't have any questions. Does any other member of the committee have Councillor Pitt?
No, I just wanted to look. Thank you for this work. I think it's really important, and I just and it's great to see that it's moving forward. And this is a really good report, and I just wanted to say so. So thank you very much for that.
Great, thanks. Would you like to add anything at all, Seb?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Pat, Councillor Maynard, for your comment, and thanks, Stefan. I don't have anything to add other than I'm really excited about this development and that we can get stuck into delivering and working with our young people. So that's, yeah, thank you.
So is the coordinator position, is that just to work within South Wairarapa, or is it across the whole district with all three councillors? Councillors?
Based here, helping us implement, but of course, working with the other similar with the youth development people in the other two councils.
Great.
Yeah. We've only got enough money to do it for a year, but if it's really adding value, maybe at the end of that year we can take a look at it.
Can I ask a question? Stephen, you might be able to. So we're getting $50,000 from Whakaora to deliver a program of youth coordination and support activities. So we're there to provide some form of activity. Yeah, is that what the money's for? And it strikes me that we're spending that money on a coordinator. So we spend the money on a coordinator. How are we going to deliver the activities? Or what are we delivering? Where's the money coming from for the actual activities?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Councillor. So there's regional activities under the strategy that we have to implement. And there's bilateral, there's working up activity that we want to deliver ourselves as South Wairarapa District Council. Now, at the moment, we're obviously struggling to implement with our existing staff, which is safe. There's no one else. And so hiring this youth development coordinator unlocks our ability to work with the other councils to implement the activity and the strategy.
Where's the money for the activities going to come from? If we spend the money that we give it for the activities,
it's only at the moment, as I said, the money for the regional activities, we're only responsible for one project, which is the Mana Te Awahi project. That's already budgeted and baseline, so we'll deliver that. The other activity that we do as a council, it's pretty minor at the moment, to be honest with the councillor. It's stuff like Youth Week and doing youth forums. It's really sort of starting to look at how we really drive the strategy forward, and that activity is also baselined in our budgets.
So what is Whakaora expecting for their $50,000?
They expect us to hire a coordinator who then helps us implement activity under the strategy.
They expect us to spend that money because they expect us to hire someone. Is that what they're giving the money for?
Sib's got a hand up.
We'll just pass. So can we just hold your questions, Alistair, and hear from Seb? She might be able to answer some of those things you queried.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Chair. And I mean, just like Stefan is saying, we have a budget. We will be using a bit of that budget to support the coordinator, to pay for the coordinator, and we still have budget to deliver the activities. The coordinator isn't going to be full-time. We've also received funding, a donation specifically to support activities connected to developing a youth council for the South Wairarapa. So some of those activities will be specifically, well, very much supporting the provision and enabling of young people to be actively involved in and participating and representing and leading on things that are important to young people in the South Wairarapa. And the regional activities, as Stefan has pointed out, we've got an allocation within the budget from Te Whatu Ora to deliver that training.
Thanks, Seth. Does that help, Alistair?
Let's move on.
Chair, we're really pulling this together with you know, sticks and string, donations, scraping together external funding, and a very, very small amount of baseline funding. I'm talking about $10,000 or $20,000. We're doing our absolute best to hold up South Wairarapa District Council's end of the bargain in terms of being able to really contribute to this strategy. If we wanted to do more, that's an LTP conversation that we'd like to have.
So in spite of that, going through the next 12 months of this term, if there are other options and opportunities to apply for funding from different avenues from central government or external organisations, charitable organisations, is council going to be on the lookout and look to source and obtain further resources?
We certainly do take every opportunity that we can to source external funding, and that's resulted in things like the Te Whatu Ora funding for youth development, the Welcoming Communities program, which we were successful in applying for, funding for the remediation of the Lake Ferry campgrounds from the Tourism Infrastructure Fund. So we really do try and get our hand out and apply to central government wherever we can. That said, Chair, there are probably many opportunities that we miss because we just are too busy to be able to seize the opportunity and go through the process with the agencies. That's something we'd like to do a lot more of.
Thank you. Great. Do we need...
Guys, I do apologise. I just have to go, and but really good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. No, right. So we've so thanks. That's youth development portion of the agenda. Just now move on to the action items or action report. We need to move.
Yeah. Sorry,
was I jumping the gun? Could I please have somebody to move recommendations 1 through to 4 in regards to youth strategy, to receive the update on implementation, know that recruitment of the youth developer coordinator is underway, know that Marston, Carden, SWDC councils have agreed to a year 1 regional flagship initiative, and know that the implementation of Te Taki, Rangatahi or Wairarapa Youth Strategy is on track to commence in the financial year 23-24. Who would like to move that? Councillor Gray, thank you. Ian second. Councillor Walcott, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Thank you. Now we're on to do 3 action items. Do I have a mover to receive the action items report, please? Councillor Wilcock, thank you. Seconder. Councillor Botley, you have volunteered. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. 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 Motion is carried. Do we have questions? Councillor Wilcock and then Councillor Thomas.
398 at the water races. Where are we at that stage? We are.
Yeah, so thank you, Councillor. So one of the many things that Robin has recently delivered for us is quite a comprehensive options paper around the water races, the future of water races, and that was sent out to Aidan, Melissa and Colin on the 11th of September, or just to give them a preliminary look at it and just get some feedback and make sure they think we're on track. I think it's an excellent paper, I really do, and it covers a lot of ground that councillors have been asking us to address for some time. As soon as we get that feedback from you, Aidan, and others, then we'll incorporate that feedback and it'll be available for wider circulation.
I'll start reading it. I'm sorry that I missed it earlier.
And the other one was council members tour of our key facilities for infrastructure and assets. Have we got when did we get this done?
This obviously, you'll be aware, through your chair, you'll be aware that we've tried to do this 50 times. And councillors are so busy. I mean, the diary for this team is crazy, as you will be very aware. And so trying to find that time to get you out on a bus around facilities is really challenging at the moment when you've got so many other priorities, not least of which raising review and long-term plan and what have you. But if you're saying to us that we have to do this is something that we really have to do and we have to do it soon, then I will try and push that into your diaries.
I just think it's actually a very key thing, because especially coming into things like the long-term plan, because there's a lot of the councillors haven't seen certain parts of this infrastructure and assets, and gives them a far better understanding and ability to make decisions.
Some councillors haven't seen our whole district.
Yeah.
So, Chair, if you want to just take the pulse on that, and it's something that everybody is in agreement on, and certainly will try and action that as soon as it.
We may need a little bit of flexibility in people's calendars, because we tried to do it at the beginning of the triennium as part of the onboarding. And obviously it's very difficult to stand to a bottom of our we have Zoom in.
That's lovely.
So, sorry, you've done.
No, yeah, so what's your
117. The report on the bus requesting 253 interest in Margaret. I thought we had dispensed with this at council level. This is dead. This is dead in the water. It's still open. It also feeds 2-1 as well. What a cost benefit. We were talking about not being able to do zebra crossings and the lights at the moment. Yeah, I mean, have I missed something here? I just thought 117.
I think you might be right for the council. I've got a feeling that Martin put his members paper forward and he pulled it as a result of the feedback from around the
Yeah, I
table.
also too.
I think he pulled the members' report on the basis that I think the discussion had already been from the previous council meeting to discuss that, to understand and do the analysis of what the cost benefits were. And I think Mayor Martin, his members' report, was wanting to push things and progress things more urgently than
Through his members' report.
through his members' report, yes.
Well, through you, Chair, unless we're instructed otherwise, this probably isn't up there on the list of
No.
priorities for us.
No benefits.
Must be a fine one.
I can't see any benefits on this at all.
I think Stefan's notes here just sum it up quite clearly. It's no operational benefit costs,
Yeah.
depreciation payment, surfing, curb, channel, street lighting, renewals, operational costs, inspections, light maintenance, blah, blah. It's cost.
Cost.
There is no benefit, with the exception, and it's just a very small exception, caps option, the odd event that we have with a little bit of traffic management. But I would suggest to you that the costs far outweigh any form of benefit.
Oh, yeah. Look, so
I think that would be 100.
I'd like to close
compared
that.
to our own.
Yes,
I'd like to close it down.
And on that note, Waka Qatar here are about to launch their new traffic management guidelines. I know it's much better. Which actually is a lot easier to deal with and may actually overcome part of the few drivers behind the mayor's reasoning for this in the first place.
I can see the reason is.
Well, okay, if we close that off, and when those new guidelines come through, can they be socialised, publicised amongst councillors? So that not only elected members in this community, but also elected members in their other communities throughout the district who have traffic management issues and questions on for events on state highways.
We're made aware of them, councillor, we can make them available.
Right.
So we can close it off.
There's two of them actually, isn't there?
Yeah, 117 and
And
219.
210. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, the 214, unless I'm reading something in here, which I'm a bit confused about, they're actually, oh, sorry, no, I mean, the item needs to be removed, sorry, 214, that's an action.
Action, yeah.
Yeah, and another one which I seem to have lost the plot on, oh no, 516.
And so you've lost the plot.
Well, I am. 516 is, forgive me, unless I'm told otherwise, this actually just feels like an operational issue around management of health and safety. And I wonder why it's on there, or am I missing something? I'm not quite sure.
It's on there because this has been going on for ever since the bridge over the Taranaki was proposed by Cardigan Council. And the landowners on either side of the bridge are very concerned about the health and safety of speed on the middle road with cyclists, particularly more so on the Greytown side because it's a shared straight road and it's a very operational farming road. And so the people that live down there raised this issue with Garrick and myself 2 years ago, 2 or 3, no, back in 21, so there you go, about resolving this and about getting the cyclists off the road, because at the time the edge was almost probably about a foot, you know, a foot, so a cyclist cycling down could not get out of the way of a truck. It was never going to be the first one, the second one, because they would never be seen in the dust.
The farmers
So the farmers down there have been really conscious and concerned about this. And so as an interim, we got Tim to get the grader just to take the edge off the side. But the next time the grader goes down, it's going to be back again. So the long-term solution and the only long-term solution is to actually get the cyclists off that road. And given that they keep saying there's going to be thousands of cyclists coming across that bridge, you know, the chances of somebody being hit by a truck is going to go up and up and up.
With that in mind, as I guess the question that I have is that how long would you want this remaining as an outstanding action if the longer term need is actually to talk about a solution to address that?
Well, I want to see a solution, then we can take it off.
I don't think until the solution.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we want is an idea about what's the solution now. We've talked about, can they get access to the rail corridor, because it's quite a big rail corridor, Transrail or whatever they call themselves. I said no. The farmers along there have offered some land on the edge, all the way down to the bridge. That seems to be in the too hard basket. Everything just seems to be really, really difficult. But on that road, we've got a really, really wide road corridor. It's very, very
Road reserve, yeah.
road reserve.
But it's because we're not funded to build trails. And
Yeah,
what you're
absolutely.
asking us to do is build a trail, but we're not funded to build a trail.
I understand that.
So is there the opportunity to go back to PG if we funded that bridge in the first place? Or whatever agency there's, I mean, Mark Charlton have just handed back how many million to government because they're not using it for a cycle trail. Carlton Council wanted the bridge over the Taranaki up. Why can't we we'll go back and ask us some
So
funding?
that was where this came from, saying, well, why are we getting a bridge? And we were given an undertaking by the cyclist community, the bridge wouldn't be opened until the safety issues on both sides of the bridge were sorted. Well, of course, that went out the way back door as soon as the bridge was open, because everyone said, oh, wonderful, we've got a bridge. Well, and they won't accept responsibility when one of these cyclists gets killed. You could bet your bottom dollar they will all duck a mile and say, we told you councils.
Because I'm not happy with for council and our ratepayers too. I mean, if we're able to find another funding source and to improve the safety for cyclists on that road reserve, just so
This is just one stage of the 5 Trails Trust thing that's going to be developed. And I've said right from day one when that came out, well, there is no money for council, yet councils are there to create the governance entity and all the other sorts of things.
I think this is a lot of work.
It's a lot of
It
work.
requires a resolution.
We've got Tim there with his hand up, so.
Yeah.
How can you help us out, Tim? Some, your
Probably
insight.
can't, but I've got a bit of history to it. Back when Bryce was still here and the bridge was mooted to happen, we did price up what it would cost to run a cycle trail down Underhill Road, with separation from the main carriageway. And I think in round figures that was $400,000 because there's quite a few culverts down there and whatever else. And I'm not sure where that was presented or what happened to it, but
It was going to be linked into the water pipe across the Taraneka. So if we were going to put the water pipe across the road hanging underneath the rail bridge, it would make sense then to run a new pipeline from the rail bridge straight up the road to connect up to
Treatment plant, also.
Woodside Road. And at that time, you could have then put a cycle trail on top of the pipe. But we're still wondering what the long-term solution is. So that was one of the out-of-the-box ways of thinking about this.
I remember when it first came in, I told everyone, you watch the ratepayers going to end up paying to seal that road now for these cyclists because the dust is just too much and too dangerous. And then on the health and safety issue, I see a week or so ago, a lady with a little dog there, some guys were down, sounds like one of the big dogs, and attacked her dog and nearly bombed her too, I think. So there's the safety issues and things like that I know we can't do a lot about it, but the signage has to be put up or about dogs and stuff.
It feels that the original action might have changed a wee bit from what you were just saying, councillor.
Well, it's the same problem, but we're just trying to think out a solution that we can actually put it into something that we were going to do, and whether it was the water pipe issue or that was just an because there's 4 options for the pipe across the river. That was one of them, and there would have been some issues about connecting the pipe. And I think they had to build about 1 kilometre of pipe anyway to connect to it. So we thought, well, why not just put a new pipeline in? All the way down, and so you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. But we haven't made that decision about the pipe across the Taraneka. Even though it was an emergency situation last year.
Yeah, 2 years ago. I think we're probably likely to come to I don't want to second guess councillors. It's a dangerous thing to do. But I think we're very we're very likely to get to a decision on the Taraneka pipe where we trench under the river. It's fast and it's effective and it's cheap. So that option that you're talking about of pipe along the river, that could be combined with a trail is, I think, probably unlikely to be available to us.
So then we have to come back with what's plan B then.
Yeah.
And that's what we need.
If I had a spare analyst that could write options papers like
There
this.
you go again. But Aidan's very right. Cardigan's just sent back $1 million or whatever it was the other day. $2 million. So perhaps there is money.
We did well with PGF. They paid for the bridge.
But we didn't apply for it.
Yeah, but we still. But
as part of it, why didn't we ensure that there was project A?
Yeah.
Why wasn't on both ends?
We didn't have a choice in that. It was dropped on us, and we then applied for additional funding from MB, which they were really generous about, and gave us another 100, whatever it was, and we used that Yep, and Tim's used a bit of his roading budget to help out as well, but we just don't have any money left. So if it costs money, it needs a resolution.
So,
Not on that side. No, just saying the road reserve though, the fact that, you know, that bit of grass through there could, I don't know, you put a grader across it, it becomes a bypass to get them off the road, is that an option?
oh, you can put a line path down there, but you want to do it on the western side because that keeps the prevailing winds there.
Yeah.
Keeps you out of the dust.
Yeah,
Yeah, so western goes, so it's probably the clearer side.
Yeah, but yeah, the eastern side's clear.
But the other side's safer.
so would that be an option to look at though? Or-
Yeah, but still, but I think it was still gonna cost us
Oh,
now,
yeah,
because a couple of
yeah.
$1,000 by the time you do the link, you know.
But if you look at the cost of it, what we're dealing with, to go to PGF and go, we're kind of missing the most important part here is getting cyclists to the bridge safely.
But the PGF fund no longer exists.
Well, no, you know, we're
Just to take the
it's money from Carnival's gone somewhere. It's going to the general funding.
That's see where they got their funding from.
They went to walk inside.
So a little question that confuses me. Why were Carlton pushing for a bridge over the Toto to Meteor River instead of over the Waihinga River, which actually connects with their land?
Because there was no way to get to the Waihinga.
Well, the railroad from Greyland goes up there and it actually would have looked straight to it. Yeah, it's only a home and they want just connect on the way.
So we need to move on. Councillor Gray, there's got her members report to you. From March.
If there's 5.6, do you want to take, do you want to answer that? What's actually?
This is what my message is, and apologies to everybody, I opened up cover ones that, but at this moment in time with our other priority projects where we've got resolutions to support, this isn't going to be something that we can respond without a solution. Well, because there's potentially cost implications and resource implications, so if we could maybe just make a note of that, or what
Could we just examine alternative funding just first, and come back to us if we can't source some money from what they have, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, then that's a different discussion. But why don't we just speak to Carter first, in the first instance?
It's not top of my list, I'm sorry, and I'd have to say no, unless I'm told to go. I'm sorry, it's just not, it's not a priority.
Examine on funding source, but not.
but it will be, but it's not a priority.
Trouble is, it's been hanging around since.
Right, let's go.
About 2 years.
Yeah.
Councillor Gray,
It's talking about things that have been around for a very long time. Actually,
wait, Sue, go.
actually, they need to do something.
You close up the action report, don't you?
Close off.
No, that's fine. I just go through.
We've moved on. Councillor Gray, we've moved on.
Lovely, okay, so this is a report, very quick, report that I'm bringing on behalf of the Featherston Community Board about the ongoing flooding issues on Daniel Street and Fitzherbert Street, locally known as Lake Super Value. I just would like it to be noted on the record that this has been an issue for Featherston for a very, very long time. And that there has been no formal movement from the council to rectify this. We've had some conversations and presentations from Stefan in the past around whose responsibility is and what the scope of the work is that needs to be done here, but there hasn't been any further open discussion around it. So yeah, I can take the report as read, but essentially we're asking for some pretty strong advocacy from South Wairarapa District Council to Waka Kotahi around getting these repairs done, and that if we are not getting any movement or success from Waka Kotahi, that we move to investigating a project plan whereby we can undertake the work ourselves, because it's not appropriate to have this level of damaged infrastructure and flooding on the main street for this long. But I understand that Stefan, you've got some pretty good news around this.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, thank you, Chair. So we have, the council has been actively advocating for this for months.
So loudly so people.
And we've been asking Wellington limited to advocate as well, and they have had their shoulder behind this for some time. We have got a decision from Waikakatahi that they will renew the problem culvert beneath State Highway 2. They'll pay for it. But that's because it's their asset. They're going to do it at Christmas when Kiwi Rail do the level crossings at the same time. And we may be able to use, Kiwi Rail has said that we may be able to use their contractors to do part of the work. So the culvert will be renewed. We understand it's going to be upsized slightly from 300 millimetres to 350 millimetres. That's really positive because it allows a greater flow, but it's not big. It's so big that it may create downstream problems for us. Waikakatahi have also planning to upgrade the inlet, the catch pit. That's the pit that often is clogged by debris and contributes to the flooding. So they'll replace that at the same time, upgrade it, and that will provide an upstream clearance that leads down into the pipe. So as I said, the work is forecasted this year at Christmas. And it's taken a while, but council has been advocating strongly to Waikakatahi and Wellington Water and asking Kiwi Rail to also play a part. And I think we're close to a resolution.
That's a great good news story for Featherston.
What a great story for this meeting on.
Well, the media was still here.
I know, we were thinking that.
Thanks so much. So can I just have someone to move that we receive Councillor Gray's members report?
I'll happily move that.
Thank you, Councillor Bosley, and a second, please, Councillor Wilcock. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, the motion of carry. Thank you very much, Lee. Now we're just going to shoot back to Councillor Wilcock's members report from July infrastructure meeting, which was it's on page 37 of the agenda. No.
Because it's ready.
Yes, it does.
So to start off, I'd just like can somebody please move to receive Councillor Wilcock's report?
It's already been received.
Sorry?
It's been received already.
Oh, right.
Last meeting.
So you just need to do this.
So can all those in favour of receiving the report, please say aye. Aye. All against? No one, motion carried. Thank you. Right. Talk fast, Woody.
Right, thanks, Chair. So my report, right before I go into this any further, I'm going to put a disclaimer on. This is in no way blaming or demeaning any staff at Council or Wellington Water. I have a good rapport, I think, with most people here, and appreciate everything they do. I also have to comment that the contractors have spoken to me and come to me with their concerns. Also say the same thing, there's no trouble with staff whatsoever. It's more about process and policy that is creating the issues. So we're going to start. Also, going to say some of these words aren't mine. I've been censored on this report, which I do not like. I'm stating that now. My words would be a little bit harsher or more direct. So what we have is we're having a few complaints from contractors. I also get them from contractors throughout the Carlton district and have to do with similar things to Lincoln. Being the person that works in this industry, they seem to come to me for their worries and concerns. So the main concern this report's about is local contractors. So Wellington Water, from what I believe, the information I've been given, is have 15 approved contractors. The 15, they do not differentiate between Wellington and the Wairarapa, so there's actually only 3 in the Wairarapa. One of them is City Care, that works solely for Marsden Council, so actually can't do any other private work anyway. when we work down here for Wellington Water, so I don't even know what the point of having them approved is. Higgins, I believe, may also be, but maybe under the Wellington umbrella. So what we come down to is basically two small contractors that are approved to do any works hooking up to infrastructure in the South Wairarapa. One of them has now actually taken on a contract with Carlton Council for their work, so the likelihood of them doing much down here is even slimmer and slimmer. So we have the likes of Pope and Ray, who are then actually giving their work. They have so much work, they have to give it to other contractors, such as Elite Drainage and the likes. And then they have to actually sign off all their work, which becomes quite a tiresome issue. There's no way of the contractor actually doing the work, actually hooking into the Wellington Water thing on the web they use, the interface. So they have to keep going back, and there's problems or issues or things have to be done over. It has to go all back through the contractor who's signing off on it, so it creates more work for them. So I know in Wellington, talking to a contractor I know over there, well, they're having the same issues, and he says he has to pay another company $5,000 a connection, which then goes on to the price for the poor retired lady that's widowed, sitting at home, needs a connection done. Here we're probably a little bit lucky that the likes of Pope and Ray are actually being really good to the other contractors and charging out stuff and that. But it's still creating a lot of extra cost and extra work into these jobs. So we need contracts where we can review policies and decisions our contractors make that affect our ratepayers. We also have issues with Wellington Water and the like, actually creating other costs of similar things like the water race, which I know we're working on to prevent hopefully some of these issues where large costs are occurring, such for the job I'm doing currently, which is a community project that I'm doing for free. And they wanted an 825mm pipe, which for a start is not a common size pipe, put in where there's a 300mm pipe feeding it, which puts the cost of that pipe from $200 to $2,000 roughly. They also want a drain load signs pipe off, which is a pipe and a paddock for a farm, which is actually ridiculous. So some of these policies and reasoning have no common sense whatsoever. And go into that. There's other issues that cost of money.
I'm just thinking, Woody, I mean, your report, we've got some discussions here about different issues and topics and projects around the district. There's also some recommendations that you've got in your members' report. That's talking about a review of the procurement and tendering policy, and a workshop on including the workshop on how to discuss and encourage local contractors to tender for council in the South of Wairarapa. So make it work. I'm just wondering as to whether we can.
We'll just do this after. So we also need to seriously look at the way new connections and shutdowns are controlled, because the time frames and the hold-ups are creating huge costs and further hold-ups, especially with TMP restrictions that have ridiculous time frames set on them. And when a contractor gets held up for some other reason, then the TMP time frame runs out. They then have to redo the whole process again. So things are happening rather than weeks, taking months. For instance, there's no reason why a shutdown of water can't be done with a 12 hours notice to the locals in the street to get work done on time and a budget. The only time I can see this being a little bit of a difference would be when you're maybe affecting like schools, doctors, maybe things like that in those streets. So what I'm proposing is a workshop inviting contractors, council staff, and Wellington Water on board to work through these issues. Have an open discussion, open and honest, to get some common sense and get some more local contractors signed off to work in the Wairarapa so we can actually get work done and approved much quicker without the hassles and the extra costs going on the ratepayers. Because it also comes down, that's not only for private work, all this takes effect when our council are getting work done, which the ratepayer is paying for. So the costs are going up exponentially where they shouldn't have.
So I'm wondering if a good start would be perhaps for us to sit down with Paul and Stefan and look at the procurement policy.
Sorry, can I just share a few thoughts of my own? There's you know, it's fantastic, Woody, that you've got this kind of product and sector knowledge that you bring to the conversation, but it's not about, I should have said, it gives the wrong impression. Where I'm coming from is that there are an awful lot of issues that the governance team as a whole are having to work with. We've only just renewed our procurement policy, which, as I indicated earlier, is a social procurement process, i.e. local first. We've got vast numbers of demonstrations of projects where we've utilised a whole range of different local contractors for multiple reasons. And with respect to this group, what we actually need is for a conversation to be had about how we harness the knowledge that you've got through your connections to help us operationalise a lot of our challenges that we face through that procurement policy. Because a lot of what you've said are recommendations that we have to figure out how we work with the likes of Wellington Water, what their procurement policies are. And so it isn't always as simple as it might look. You know, we have got a council control organisation to work with that is also working across a number of other councils who all have their own procurement policies, you know, and their own focus areas. So my comment, without wanting to beat around the bush, is to actually allow us to demonstrate to this group, to this committee, how we're enacting our procurement policy in the manner in which it was first intended, which is with local sourcing of contractors front of mind. And if you set that standard of us, you can hold us to account for it. Does that make sense?
Just on one thing, also some of this, I know we come from for our policy of the ratepayers, but a lot of us from Wellington Water. So these approved contractors, these guys can't even go and do a private job, like say someone needs a sewer connection done off the main road, which is they need approval from Wellington Water to do it. These contractors can't do it because they're not approved, even though, for instance,
Excuse me, Woody. Can we just perhaps close the meeting, because we're going to lose a quorum because Councillor Gray has to leave, but can we still continue the conversation outside the bounds of the meeting with Woody and Paul and myself?
Yeah, no, that'd be good. Because I want you to feel like you're sharing what your insights are. But there's a place, I guess, as to understanding the machinery of Wellington Water and how we best engage with them to influence how they operate. And it isn't, what you've got is lots of examples of issues that are causing.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
So we're just going to call the meeting closed at 4:46.
Great.
So, thank you.
It's all right. So we'll keep talking.
Yeah.
It's just that we're going to lose that score or the main guest.